I'm Vicky Gibbens, a presenter and journalist at UCB. Come with me on a journey to Zimbabwe as we travel with Feed the Hungry, a charity that's supporting many children living in poverty. Feed the Hungry is an organisation that's working internationally to try to alleviate poverty. It was founded more than 30 years ago by Dr. Lester Sumrall. Now, he was a pastor and evangelist, and his heart was to reach people beyond just bringing them physical food, but also to share the good news of Jesus Christ with the last, least and lost. In August 2018, UCB teamed up with Feed the Hungry on a project to feed children in Zimbabwe. It started here at UCB's Broadcast Centre and Operations Office in Stoke. UCB staff packed highly nutritious meals to be sent overseas. Events like this are run all over the UK by Feed the Hungry in partnership with charities and churches and community groups, giving people the opportunity to practically do something to end world hunger. So we are here at a packing day here at UCB, but you can get involved in one at your local church as well. Behind me, the packing process is underway at the moment. So we've got some lentils, we've got a bit of rice as well. Over here we've got the micronutrients, and then finally we've got the soya as well. So it all goes into the funnel, goes into a bag which is passed along the line that you can see at the moment, ends up on the weighing scales, and then finally it gets stuck in a box at the end. And in each one of those bags it feeds about 6 children, and at the end we get all those bags into the box. There's around about 216.
Having seen the videos about how this gets straight to the communities and has a real impact on it, it did actually really inspire me to just want to do something practical rather than just donate a bit of money towards a charity. Actually getting involved in it makes you feel as if you're really doing something part of it as well.
I think it just goes back to the biblical principle of you were hungry and you fed me. So it's about going beyond just the people that we see in our everyday lives, but actually around the world there are so many people that just need food, and in some ways this actually keeps the kids in school because it means that they actually want to go to school because they get a meal. And so not only are you ensuring that they are fed, but you're also ensuring that they get educated, they get clothed, and they get to actually break the cycle of poverty. So it's a great thing to be involved in.
Following the fun and hard work of food packing events in organisations and churches around the UK, the food is transported to Feed the Hungry's warehouse near Leicester. When enough food is ready, the boxes are loaded onto a container, ready to be sent to one of Feed the Hungry's project partners overseas.
We've just finished loading a container full of meals. These meals have been packed around the country at different events that Feed the Hungry UK have organised and facilitated. There are 300,000 meals in each container, and this particular container is going to Zimbabwe. Feed the Hungry UK send food to 5 different countries around Africa: Zimbabwe, Kenya, Burkina Faso, Lesotho and Malawi.
I'd seen the food being packed in the UK and volunteers praying for the children who would receive it. Now I was going to see it delivered at the other end in Zimbabwe. The containers sent by Feed the Hungry usually take a couple of months to arrive. My journey was going to take about 24 hours and involved planes, trains and a little bit of running. So I've made it onto the plane, and this is the second flight of 3 flights out to Zimbabwe, and already we've had lots of snacks and meal times, and food really is at the heart of this journey. I'm really conscious that I'm pretty complacent when it comes to meal times. I like my breakfast, my lunch and my dinner, and yet the children that I'm going to be meeting, that isn't the normal reality for them. one meal a day makes all the difference from what I've been hearing, and I can't wait to hear their stories and share them with you. Feed the Hungry works with local church partners in each of the countries in which it operates. In Zimbabwe, the partner is called the Joseph Foundation and is headed up by Pastor Elna Mukamori. Pastor Elna?
Vicky.
Pastor Elna, it's lovely to meet you. Pastor Elna has lived and worked in Harare for more than 40 years, planting churches with her husband Afil all over Zimbabwe. Sadly, Afil died in 2017. Elna misses him, but she's felt called by God to carry on the work she and Afil had started through the Joseph Foundation. What is the Joseph Foundation?
The Joseph Foundation is a non-governmental, registered private voluntary organization. It grew out of the church because there's a real need in our nation. Most people are living below that poverty line. I mean without the basic life necessities like food, shelter, and health.
And food is something that you are able to help with. Tell me about your partnership and how important it is between the Joseph Foundation and Feed the Hungry.
Oh, that's the most important partnership for us to be able to operate as an organization involved with wet feeding. It is because Feed the Hungry are sending us the food. They send us 42 feet food containers, regularly, and that is what we are using. Without that, we wouldn't be able to do the supplementary feeding that we are doing today.
What happens when a container arrives here?
They come in here through the gates,
Okay.
reverse here, and then the people line up and they hand each other the boxes into this container over here.
And then from here, do the schools come to here to receive the food, or do you take the food out?
Most of the schools are now coming to collect their food, but we still do have some that we are supporting with our little truck. We don't have a big truck and we need one because there are some that can't even afford to come and take the food. So we have to take the food to them.
And the children that you work with, you understand their situation from your own experience?
Yes, I do. I do because I grew up, also in poverty. Yes, in the village. And actually I first put on my first shoes when I was already a big girl. I know what it is to go to school in a rocky ground without shoes. So I understand.
Just how many children are you feeding?
Right now we are over 14,000.
14,000?
Yes, wow. School children, learners.
I'm travelling southeast of Harare to an area called Epworth to visit the Open Tribe School. And this is a school where food from Feed the Hungry is being distributed. So finally, the time has come to see this important programme in action and the difference it's making to children here. Open Tribe School is unusual. Apart from the buildings being basic, the children who attend are very poor or particularly vulnerable. Almost all education in Zimbabwe is private and has to be paid for. However, Open Tribe offers free education as a service for those children who would otherwise not be able to afford to attend. The school is overseen by Pastor Carlston. Pastor, tell me a bit about the area here and where the children come from.
This community is a poverty-stricken community where a lot of residents in this community are unemployed due to unemployment leading to a lot of sicknesses. So there is a high rate of AIDS pandemic in this community. that led to a lot of orphans and vulnerable children.
And so, do they pay to come to school here?
No, they doesn't pay. They are just coming to our own will so that they do their learning sessions freely.
And why is education important?
In Zimbabwe, education is one of the fundamental rights for children. For you to be a child, you have the right to education.
And why is that food important? How does it help them study?
Food is very important to them. It increases their capability of learning and also concentration.
A few hours ago, volunteers from the local community arrived at the school to get ready the food to serve to the children. And so in these 3 big cooking pots at the moment, the food is being cooked. So in here, of course, we've got the soy and the lentils and the micronutrients. And actually in this pot, this one's nearly ready to go. It's nearly cooked through, whereas in this one, it's still under preparation, still cooking. And the reason why the cooking is staggered and it's taken a couple of hours to prepare is because there are limited resources. And so the children will queue and take it in turns because there are only so many bowls for the food to actually go into for the children to eat from, which they'll be enjoying in a short while. What is it like living in Zimbabwe?
Hey, that's a difficult question to answer right now. See, honestly speaking, right now life here in Zimbabwe is difficult. Prices are going up, unexpectedly. You wake up in the morning and a packet of sugar has gone up by maybe 20%, 30%. Life right now is difficult, yes.
The children around us are eating food. Can you describe the difference it makes?
It has made a big difference. You see, these children are underprivileged. Some of these children, when they come to school, they come on empty stomachs, So, their performance in class is very, very low. Now, because of the food, they can perform better. That is one point. The other point is because of the expectancy that after the class we are going to have some food. It improves their attendance register. Yes.
Having seen Open Tribe School and the impact regular meals were having on the students there, Pastor Carlston arranged for me to visit the home of a couple of the pupils. We walked down dusty, dry roads, lined either side with basic single-room buildings. In Epworth, there are no amenities, no water, sewers or electricity supply. Although the houses are basic, it's not uncommon for them to be rented accommodation. Scholastic is a grandma to 7-year-old Nigel and 5-year-old Denver, and they've just kindly invited me inside their home to see how they live. And it's extremely basic. Scholastic is actually looking after these 2 children because they are orphaned. Their parents were both HIV positive. These 2 children are well, And so it makes such a difference that they can go to the Open Tribe School and be fed, because Scholastic relies on that food to feed her family. And sometimes Nigel and Denver will actually bring some of that food home so that Scholastic can actually have a meal herself. At the Open Tribe School, it was so exciting to see the children being fed and just how enthusiastic they were to get their meal, because for some of them it might have been their only meal of that day, and they just seemed to love studying as well. I think it was quite a hard reality then to go and visit some of the children in their homes, the basicness of some of the conditions that they were living in, and the responsibility for grandparents to look after their children, to make sure that they are fed, that they live another day, but also just how precious it is for these children to get an education as well. My day started at the Rock Mountain Christian College with lots of singing, lots of dancing, lots of worshipping, which is kind of what I experienced there on Sunday. But on Sunday it was church, whereas today it was a school. That's what happens Monday to Friday. You see, the Joseph Foundation is a church ministry that's grown out of that whole network of churches, and they distribute the food that Feed the Hungry provides. It was wonderful to meet so many inspirational students who want to do all sorts of jobs and professions when they're older, from working in science and the business industry to also becoming a nurse. I met 15-year-old Faith, and Faith had lost her father, and there was just her and her mother. And she told me that she didn't always know how much food there would be at home, but at least Faith could come to school and be fed. And the Christian faith is really at the heart of the school community. I spoke about the singing and the worshipping and the dancing, but it's also inspiring children as well. One of the teachers actually was a former pupil of the school, and he told me how important it was for him to serve God, and that he had come back to the school to give just as he had received, and showing other students just what is possible when they learn and they grow and they study and pass their exams. As well as physically feeding the children, Feed the Hungry help you spiritually feed them as well. Bibles are coming.
Yes.
How significant is that?
Oh, it's very significant, because we don't want to feed children that will grow up and not knowing the Lord, and then they are strong physically, but then lost spiritually. So we want to make sure we are feeding them physically and then also lead them to Jesus Christ. So the Red Letter Bibles is such a great blessing, because we will be able to put the Word of God, the hard copy of the Word of God, in their hands.
The following day, I visited another school the Joseph Foundation works in. It's situated amongst the picturesque Balancing Rocks. These granite formations are somewhat iconic in Zimbabwe, being featured on local currency. However, the sites that can be found surrounding the rocks are striking for very different reasons. The poverty in this area is overt. Many of the families live here because they can't afford to live anywhere else. I'm here at Razunuguko School, or the Freedom School, which is in Epworth, just outside of Harare, a really poor community where many families are struggling. And so here at this school, there are about 300 to 400 students, and as you can see, they're busy behind me, studying, learning, growing, building in confidence. But many of these students wouldn't be here today if there wasn't a feeding programme, because thanks to the Joseph Foundation, in partnership with Feed the Hungry, they have established a feeding programme at this school, which is what I've come to learn more about. last few hours, volunteers from the community have been diligently preparing and cooking the food. And so finally, lunchtime has arrived. The excitement has been building, and so you've got children who are queuing up in one area, washing through the orange Feed the Hungry bowls, so they're ready to then queue up here to receive their food, the rice, the lentils and the soy. A really nutritious meal which will then give them the energy into the afternoon as they continue to study and learn.
After lunch, I had the opportunity to visit the houses of some of the students at the school. Here I was given a glimpse of the reality of the circumstances those in Epworth face every day. I visited the house of a student called Leona. At 14, she is the eldest of 4 children, the youngest being only 7 months old. Her mother takes care of the family. Her father is still alive, but lives away from home, trying to work to get any money he can to buy food and pay for the rent of their single-room house. Leona's mother, Margaret, explained about the difficulties they faced. She showed me the food she'd prepared to feed the family for that evening. It was less than a plate full of corn, and yet it was going to be dinner for 5 of them. Margaret takes some comfort from knowing 3 of her children who go to school are receiving a regular meal. It's a real lifeline and reduces the pressure on her to find food for another meal each day.
At lunchtime I had the opportunity to actually serve the children their meals, which was a real privilege to join volunteers at the school, because you could see the joy on the staff's faces as they gave out the meals. And then just to sit down afterwards with the children and play some games, they were so full of life and energy, and I can only think that must have been helped from eating that nutritious meal. And then we went back to one of the students' homes called William. And William and his sister had been at the school during the day, and we discovered that there was a younger brother actually waiting at home for them to come home. And for William, he'd lost his mum. There was a father, but not really on the scene. And so William, at 12 years old, was taking care of his family. And I realised today that for children like William, school isn't just about learning. It's actually an opportunity for them just to be a child, to have that freedom to play and to learn, and to have other adults and volunteers take care of them. And so that's why the work of Feed the Hungry is so important in places like Zimbabwe and beyond, to help families like William see hope beyond their circumstances and know that someone else is caring for them.
I've followed the journey of food being packed in the UK, transported to Feed the Hungry's warehouse, and it then being sent on to the Joseph Foundation in Zimbabwe, where the meals are cooked and distributed. It's a mammoth operation, and one which is ongoing. However, Feed the Hungry are more than just sending food to feed a child for a day. It's about enabling fullness of life, both physically and spiritually, investing into each child and providing the opportunity of a better future. As well as sending food, Feed the Hungry helps local communities to acquire farmland so that food can be grown in country to support the local feeding programmes. They send clothes, school uniforms and educational resources to improve many students' experience of school. And they're committed to resourcing the churches they partner with so that the good news of Jesus Christ can be shared with many more people. If you'd like to find out more about supporting the work of Feed the Hungry or running your own food packing event, please visit feedthehungry.org.uk.
Before travelling to Zimbabwe, I wasn't entirely sure how I would be received given the country's turbulent past, and yet I've been greeted by such hospitality and friendliness. Just before travelling to Zimbabwe, I went to a school in the UK, and the students there were surrounded by technology and books and displays, all to stimulate their learning. Yet here in Zimbabwe, the schools that I've been to are based in very poor communities with a lot of issues. And the classrooms themselves, well, some of the school buildings, they don't even have walls. Many students were relying on very basic resources, some even writing on cardboard boxes, whatever they could get hold of. But for these schools, at the heart of many of them was the food, lunchtime, an opportunity to perhaps get a life-saving meal for some of these students who may not eat the rest of the day. And I was touched by just how many would actually take home some of their lunchtime meal to share with their family. And that meal could only happen thanks to the partnership between the Joseph Foundation and Feed the Hungry. What I've learned is it takes a whole community to help children living in poverty. Be it Feed the Hungry, the Joseph Foundation, the many volunteers who are actually unpaid teachers, those who are cooking in the kitchen to prepare the food for the children. At one of the primary schools, I met 17-year-old Menashe. And you might think, at 17 years old, why is he at primary school? The pastor took me to one side and explained that Menashe had lost both of his parents. He was HIV positive and extremely vulnerable in his community. And yet the school were able to stand in the gap to bring him dignity and care, respect, and an abundance of love, but also just the simple practicality of a life-saving meal for Menashe. One of the volunteers at the Joseph Foundation explained to me that we can all make a difference, even in the smallest of ways. We can create ripples, ripples of chaos, ripples of peace. And here in Zimbabwe, I see many ripples of hope for the next generation.